New at 11.
In looking at that, the officer had an opportunity to transition to a less lethal option.
A man shot and killed by police, and the officer who pulled the trigger.
Pow, pow.
The police chief's response to the video that will help determine what happens next.
20 years ago, police didn't have a problem physically restraining people. Use of a gun was a last resort.
As a frustrated community tries to move on and move forward, Wave 3 News at 11 starts now.
Expect more right now. You're watching Wave 3 News.
We've learned a lot in the last 24 hours since Deng Manyon was shot and killed, threatening Officer Nathan Blandford with a flagpole, their identities, the surveillance, and now what happens next. Thanks for joining us at 11. I'm Myra Ansari. Tonight we're exploring even more angles on this quickly evolving story, from the men's past to the community's future. We've got team coverage for you tonight. Wave 3 News reporter Kayla Vanover spoke with frustrated city leaders about how the situation was handled. But first, we go to Wave 3 News reporter Casey Cunningham live at LMPD headquarters. And Casey, does the police chief think that the shooting was justified?
Myra, he tells us it's really just too soon to tell. What we do know is there is a detailed process for how police investigate officer-involved shootings. But what they do know, the officer involved, he believes his life was in danger. The surveillance video shows a clear picture of what happened. A man identified as Deng Manyon stopped by Officer Nathan Blandford. Manyon then charges at Officer Blandford with a flagpole.
It appears that he is coming down in what I would describe as a sledgehammer-like motion towards the officer.
But was the use of deadly force justified?
I have not reached any conclusions about whether or not this use of force was justified.
It's a three-part process, starting with a criminal investigation by the Public Integrity Unit, then an internal investigation by the Professional Standards Unit. Finally, a citizens commission will review all the findings. The LMPD policy says deadly force is justified when an officer reasonably believes the person who the force is used against possesses a threat of death or injury to themselves or others. The chief's preliminary observations of the video explain this could be the case.
It would appear to me, based on my view of the video, that he felt threatened, that his life was in danger. There's a man swinging a 7 or 8 foot metal pole at him.
Many community members are asking, what about a less lethal option?
I believe, looking at the video, he did not have the opportunity to transition to another option.
Since 2012, there have been 17 officer-involved shootings. 6 of those ended in death. 8 of those officers have been exonerated. Whether or not a 9th will be added to that number will depend on the results of this investigation. And we're told Officer Blandford will be questioned in regards to the shooting later this week. Reporting live at the LMPD headquarters, Casey Cunningham, Wave 3 News.
Thank you, Casey. And that surveillance video LMPD released came from cameras outside a store.
They shot him like pow, pow.
Khalil Adil is the owner of Smoker Smoke Shop. He shared what his camera caught with us. He was working yesterday when he heard the shots. He says Deng Manyon grabbed one of the flags that he uses to advertise his business.
Took the flag with the, with the bow on it, and he started showing off with it. And then my employee guy went behind the counter trying to go get the guy, and next thing did he hear like 2 shots.
And we did some digging into Deng Manyon's past. He was arrested back in March for a number of charges, including criminal trespassing, menacing, and indecent exposure, which were all dismissed on June 6th. He did plead guilty to disorderly conduct and spent 10 days in jail. As for Officer Blandford, he's been placed on administrative leave while the police's Public Integrity Unit investigates. We did get his personnel file. In it, a dozen letters commending Officer Blandford for his work with LMPD. The letters date back to 2006. Several of them compliment him for his quick response, teamwork, and investigative skills. He was also nominated for the Distinguished Life-Saving Award. There were a couple letters of reprimand because Blandford failed to go to court. He was suspended for 1 day. And while the facts are starting to surface, local activists came together to discuss the fatal event. Their main concern that they say the officer used unnecessary force. Wave 3 News reporter Kayla Vanover was at the meeting this afternoon. And Kayla, what did they talk about?
It was an emotional discussion, Myra, during Stand Up Sunday on West Broadway. It's a weekly meeting with activists who attempt to bring justice to minority groups. And today, different groups came together to make sense of yesterday's shooting and what role the community plays in events such as this. The group departed with 2 goals in mind: flood the phone lines at both LMPD and the mayor's office.
Why was the first thing this man grabbed was his guns? Why didn't the officer grab the taser?
A common question tossed around during today's discussion as groups urged transparency from LMPD.
20 years ago, police didn't have a problem physically restraining people. Use of a gun was a last resort.
At the meeting, the members stressed that police released the officers' names who were involved in the initial call. Moments later, the police chief did just that and supplied surveillance video from the shooting. But for some of these activists, that's not enough.
We want any officer who's involved in a shooting to be drug tested immediately in the same way that a victim would be given a toxicology test.
With their suggestions, the group reiterated that they aren't anti-police and they realize police officers are necessary to our society.
But it's very important to us that everyday citizens also recognize that there are some places where LMPD falls short and that everybody has the power to hold folks accountable, to ask these important questions.
The group says yesterday's unfortunate events are even more proof that all area officers should be equipped with a body camera.
You know, we do all of our training.
A spokesperson says they do not trust police to be the sole investigators of their own behavior, highlighting the need for a community-based independent police civilian review board that has subpoena power. Reporting live in the newsroom, Kayla Vanover, Wave 3 News.
Thank you, Kayla. And we spoke with 6th District Metro Councilman David James about the officer-involved shooting in his district. James is a former Fraternal Order of Police president and had several roles with LMPD. He says he's seen the surveillance video and says that it's tragic when any life is lost. He also added that he felt the officer had very little time to react when the suspect who got very aggressive.
That comes out of it is that there's a thorough investigation and that the transparency of the investigation is very apparent to everybody in the community so that we can all learn from what happened.
And James says there will be a community and police forum that was scheduled prior to the shooting, and the officer-involved shooting will likely be discussed. That will be on June 18th from 6 to 7:30 at the California Community Center on West Catherine Street. As for body cams, Chief Conrad said the officer didn't have one, but there is dash cam video. He says they are interviewing the officer this week. LMPD recently rolled out some body cameras for the department to use. They say they plan on getting cameras on all officers by this time next year. And we'll follow all developments of this story very closely as more information becomes available this week. You can get the latest online at wave3.com, including the raw video of Chief Conrad's entire news conference today about the shooting. New tonight, an arrest made after a man is found dead in a Louisville alley. Trice Alexander Whaley was arrested on a murder charge for the death of 27-year-old Brandon Bryant. Police found Bryant's body in an alley behind 30th Street between Chestnut and Magazine Streets. According to police, Whaley shot Bryant, then dumped his body in the alley. There were surveillance cameras near that alley. Whaley has previous drug and burglary charges. Well, to your forecast now, we've been stuck in a heat wave, but we've got some rain headed our way. Let's go to Wave 3 meteorologist Ryan Hoke. And Ryan, what's the work week look like?
Well, it looks like the heat wave is going to ease a little bit this week, but we are certainly going to see those storm chances spike in more ways than one. Outside this evening, though, things relatively calm from our Wave 3 News tower camera. Haven't seen a drop of rain here in the metro area today. In fact, we are still at 83 degrees as of 11 o'clock. Think about that for just a second. That's pretty warm for this time of night. Outside the city, we're still in the upper 70s in most spots. The cool spots, of course, being to our south and east with Lebanon and Columbia Columbia, both clocking in at 75 degrees. A Doppler radar view does show us a few showers in our western counties at the moment. These are the remnants of thunderstorms near the Evansville area earlier, but you can tell by the colors on the radar how quickly these are weakening. And in fact, for the Louisville metro area, I really doubt we'll see more than a drip drop here out of these. And for folks east of Louisville, well, I think you're going to be high and dry tonight. There is a small chance for a pop-up shower or storm through the overnight hours, but as you'll see on the radar view, things look to be quieting down pretty good. And that's good news for your Monday morning commute. We'll be seeing overnight lows in the mid-70s as you're waking up and out the door. And of course, for the afternoon, we do have a 30% storm chance. High temperatures back in the 90s once again, but an even better storm chance arrives for your Tuesday. Some of those storms could be on the strong side. We'll talk about those in more detail coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Ryan. A Kentucky man holding on for life after confronting a thief in downtown Nashville. Police say that Shane Hinton of Hardinsburg was shot multiple times after he and a friend approached the suspects who appeared to be stealing from a car in a parking garage. Hinton told police that one of the suspects pulled a pistol and fired at him at close range. The suspect is still at large. He's been identified as 21-year-old Ismail Ahmed. Hinton is in critical condition. A sad day for one Derby horse with great potential. What led to the death of horse Dancing Moon ahead in sports. And a bridge closed completely, not for construction, but because of flies. We'll explain straight ahead.